In recent weeks, unsettling whispers have begun circulating through the channels of international politics. Though still lacking official confirmation, these reports are already sparking serious debate within diplomatic circles. At the center of the discussion is South Korea, one of Washington's most important allies in East Asia and the Pacific, which, according to multiple respected outlets, is weighing the possibility of joining the BRICS group. For now, the information remains at the insider level, yet the leaks appeared almost simultaneously in several places. Articles in the South Korean daily Hankor citing officials linked to President Lee Jae-myung's administration, along with analyses from Reuters and Japan's Nikkei. In Washington, policymakers recognize that such stories don't appear randomly. Their timing directly reflects the strain in U.S.-South Korea relations, a rift deepened by Donald Trump's tariff policies. The chain of events began when Trump, upon returning to the White House, revived his old pledge to impose steep tariffs, not only on Chinese goods, but also on imports from South Korea. The measures hit hardest at Seoul's key industries: steel, automobiles, and electronics, the pillars of its export-driven economy. Analysts at the Korea International Trade Association estimate that within the first few months, South Korean companies suffered losses exceeding $12 billion. Local media now openly report that giants such as Samsung, Hyundai, and LG are actively exploring market diversification, eyeing closer partnerships with China, India, and Southeast Asian nations. Against this backdrop, the Financial Times revealed that President Lee's administration has already drafted a policy report outlining scenarios for a possible strategic shift, ranging from partial rapprochement with China to full BRICS membership. A senior official in the presidential Blue House, speaking anonymously, warned, "If Washington maintains economic pressure, Seoul will have no choice but to explore alternative alliances." Moscow and Beijing welcomed this signal enthusiastically. Russian and Chinese state outlets have begun speculating about BRICS' inevitable expansion to include advanced high-tech economies. What worries the Pentagon most is that such talk isn't coming from a peripheral state, but from a country hosting 28,000 U.S. troops and playing a crucial role in America's missile defense network in Asia. Losing Seoul as a dependable partner would undermine not only Washington's economic interests, but also its regional defense strategy. A former senior U.S. diplomat even admitted to the Washington Post, "If South Korea leans toward BRICS, it will be Washington's greatest geopolitical setback since Vietnam." Meanwhile, inside South Korea, voices calling for a more independent foreign policy are growing louder. A Gallup Korea poll conducted in early August found that 47% of South Koreans now believe the U.S. alliance brings more problems than benefits, while 52% support expanding ties with China, India, and Russia. Just 5 years ago, American support levels exceeded 70%, a stunning reversal that has deeply alarmed Washington analysts. The magazine Foreign Affairs recently wrote that Trump's trade strategy is effectively pushing Seoul into BRICS orbit. Michael Green, a former State Department advisor on East Asia, observed, "Washington wrongly assumes South Korea is locked in, but Seoul has long been an independent actor capable of choosing alliances that serve its own interests." Indeed, South Korea today ranks among the world's top 10 economies. Its tech companies lead global innovation in microelectronics and automobiles, and its diplomatic weight in Asia rivals that of Japan. According to Bloomberg, in July, a closed-door meeting took place in Beijing between South Korean envoys and China's foreign ministry to discuss potential multilateral cooperation under the BRICS Plus format. While officially described as informal, the talks coincided precisely with Washington's new tariffs on South Korean automobiles. Almost certainly not a coincidence. Further fueling speculation, India's The Hindu reported that Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally raised with Seoul the idea of inviting South Korea to the next BRICS summit. Taken together, these developments paint a sobering picture. The Biden administration insists it has the situation under control, but the reality is clear. Seoul is already reassessing its foreign policy path. Should South Korea formally join BRICS, the geopolitical balance in Asia would be fundamentally reshaped. Washington would lose a critical ally, while China and Russia would gain a cutting-edge technological power in their camp. And India would further cement its standing as a leader of the developing world. According to senior figures within Europe's diplomatic establishment, Brussels is not merely watching from the sidelines. It is scrutinizing the situation with mounting concern. Behind closed doors, EU officials admit that what is happening with South Korea could reshape global alignments in ways unseen since the Cold War. An official from the European Commission, speaking to Politico, put it bluntly, "If South Korea decides to join BRICS, the signal will be unmistakable. It will mean that even the world's advanced economies, those long seen as the West's closest allies, no longer regard the United States as an indispensable partner. The consequences would be profound. For now, the official added, everything hinges on whether Donald Trump recalibrates his foreign policy. Yet there is little sign of moderation. His speeches remain as combative as ever. At a rally in Ohio, he declared to a roaring crowd, America will never again be used as a wallet. In Washington, this was presented as a strong nationalist statement. But in Seoul, the words cut deep, interpreted not as a policy stance but as a public humiliation. A dismissal of a country that has, for decades, spent billions of its own money to maintain American military installations on its soil. Within South Korea's foreign ministry, insiders caution that the question of joining BRICS is still confined to discussions at the expert and committee level. There is, they insist, no official policy shift yet. But the very fact that such deliberations are even taking place is extraordinary. For Washington, this is a flashing red light and alarm bell. For too long, U.S. policymakers have treated Seoul as a subordinate junior partner. Now one of America's most loyal allies may be slowly, quietly preparing to drift toward another camp. And the stakes extend far beyond the Korean peninsula. Japan, too, is deeply unsettled. Reports from Yomi Shimbun reveal that Tokyo is studying the implications of Seoul's potential entry into BRICS with intense focus, seeing in it nothing less than a direct threat to the region's delicate balance of power. If South Korea were to tilt closer to Moscow and Beijing, Japan fears that the trilateral framework, linking the US, Japan, and South Korea, could collapse. Such a breakdown would undermine not only military cooperation and intelligence sharing, but also high-tech partnerships in aerospace, defense systems, and semiconductors. Tokyo does not hide its frustration. Officials there openly acknowledge that it was Trump's tariff wars and economic nationalism that first sparked the crisis. What began as a dispute over trade has now spiraled outward, threatening alliances that were painstakingly built over generations. Equally striking is the shift in tone within South Korea itself. At the end of July, the influential magazine Mail Business published a headline-grabbing interview with a former presidential advisor on trade. His words were unusually blunt. South Korea, he argued, is tired of being reduced to a pawn in someone else's grand geopolitical chessboard. For too long, Seoul has been forced to choose between the priorities of Washington, Beijing, and Tokyo. Now, he suggested, the time has come to seriously explore BRICS as a platform where South Korea might protect and advance its own interests. That article triggered an immediate storm of debate. Some analysts dismissed it as a trial balloon, carefully floated to test public reaction. Others insist such strong words would never have appeared in print, unless they were quietly sanctioned by figures very high up in the political hierarchy. Either way, the publication marked a turning point. Conversations that were once whispered only in academic seminars or quiet think tanks are now openly shaping the national discourse. Washington has taken notice. According to CNN, citing sources within Congress, U.S. intelligence agencies have already completed an assessment of what Seoul's shift might mean. The report is said to be blunt, warning that South Korea's alignment with BRICS would create a channel for China to expand its economic and political influence deep into the heart of East Asia. One Republican lawmaker, speaking behind closed doors, summed it up in even starker terms. We are on the verge of losing a country we've invested in for decades, militarily, politically, economically, simply because of the president's refusal to change course. On the streets of Seoul, frustration is no longer confined to policymakers. Protest movements are gaining momentum. Demonstrators march carrying placards that read "No U.S. tariffs" and "Korea chooses BRICS." South Korean television channels broadcast the rallies during primetime hours, ensuring maximum visibility. Popular talk show hosts, once staunch defenders of the alliance with America, now openly ask a once unthinkable question. What has the United States truly given us in return for all these decades of loyalty? This hardening rhetoric is a reflection of something deeper, a genuine shift in public opinion. What seemed impossible even a year ago is now being voiced in mainstream debate. For Washington, this represents not just a diplomatic challenge but a strategic nightmare. Meanwhile, BRICS itself appears to be moving with quiet calculation. According to Al Jazeera, member states are already drawing up scenarios in which South Korea could be offered observer status at the next summit. Such a step would allow Seoul to cautiously engage without formally committing. Yet even this symbolic gesture would be a stinging blow to Washington. Economists warn that South Korea's participation, even at an observer level, could strengthen the emerging financial frameworks designed to bypass the US dollar. Regional trade could increasingly be settled in local currencies, reducing America's leverage and weakening the global reach of its financial system. The sense is growing that the world is standing on the edge of a tectonic shift. For the first time in generations, the United States risks losing not only a key military stronghold, but also the credibility of its leadership in one of the most strategically vital regions on Earth. If Trump continues down his current path, favoring nationalist rhetoric over alliance management, then South Korea may indeed